Okay, welcome to DI. There's kind of broken into 4 segments. Now, just like how many of you guys have been, you've taught time to teach, right? You've all taught time to teach. And you know that there's change in the air every time we turn around. And this is the inaugural. You're the first crew. You're my first trainers. So, will there be change? Yes. First of all, this is not the book. This is the draft of the book. The book's actually coming through, and Rick is, I think, working on that right now, in fact. So by the time we present these things, we'll have text for you to go out. There will be a second book we'll talk about a little later on, and we'll go from there. It's broken in right now. It's broken into 4 segments: questioning and social learning, kinesthetics and dynamic tension, relevancy, and aesthetic and divergent thinking. Okay? MI inventories. The first thing that you will note in here when you look, there's a breakdown, and I'll add more and more as I find useful things in terms of the verbs based on each of the multiple intelligences and the learning modes. But there is not a multiple intelligence survey in there for you to survey your kids. The reason is there's entire courses develop on that, and all you got to go is go online and go MI inventory. Bam, they're free. And I figured why, and it's not what this course is particularly about. So there are courses out there to do it. If you look at Tomlin's and stuff, she's got several books out. But that's not what the focus of the course is. But some people will ask. Now, in MI inventories come in all kind of shapes and sizes too. And how many of you guys have used those before? Okay, good. Some of them omit others. Some use the Howard Gardner model. I use the Howard Gardner model in terms of his labeling. But some don't. Some might say, it's a blue dolphin and a red fox and a gray elephant. And then they give these characteristics to that creature or something, especially if the younger kids think, you're a gray elephant. Ah, no, really. No, you're a red fox. And then you have that argument. I didn't want to enter into that. Just understand that it's kind of the same thing. It really is. When you take a look at the big picture and you see all these ways of doing an inventory on a kid, it's really about taking a look at what their strengths are and what their weaknesses are in terms of learning styles. But that's not kind of what Howard Gardner talks about when he talks about learning styles. And I think some of MI, of the multiple intelligence portion of this, got off track at DI. And it got off track because they said, we have this definition, you've got to teach this way. I will never tell you that. In fact, there's only 2 things in here I will say. This is the method to do this strategy if you follow these steps, but that's about it. Everything else is you adapt to your own because you're all different. See, the weird thing is, the 2 big things is, 1, we don't differentiate our instruction to teachers to model it, so you guys don't get exposure to that. So that's one huge thing. And the other part is, there's this tendency that they're a kinesthetic learner. Well, it doesn't mean that's the, Gardner said that's the only way they can learn. Well, they just lean towards kinesthetic, and that helps them. It does not mean that they cannot learn logically, or they can't learn visually or spatially, or they can't, no, not at all. In fact, most of it is exposure. Exposures to different types of learning, different types of approaches to teaching, which helps kids build these strengths. And a lot of what Gardner say is, it's wonderful to know you got to know your kids, and you build up their strengths, and then you capitalize on those, and then you help them build up the other methods of learning. So therefore, whenever they get into any type of environment to learn, they have that many more tools. Just like giving tools to a teacher, you give tools to kids to learn. 2 terms that I use in the course is MI, multiple intelligences from Howard Gardner, and then modes of learning, which is the ADKE style, or ADK, or audio, visual, kinesthetic, and I've added emotional to it, or affective learning, okay? So if you hear me say mode, I'm talking about those. If you hear me say MI, I'm talking about Howard Gardner's, okay? There's some online resources for some surveys if you want to take a look at those. Okay, multiple intelligences. Verbal linguistic. Someone shout something out about the verbal linguistic, which would be appropriate. Linear, okay. Anything else? Traditional, okay. What else? Auditory, okay. How about visual spatial? Not me. You got to see it to believe it kind of thing, right? They got to see it in the context. Okay. Visual spatial is a lot about environment, to be honest with you. A lot of people think, well, it's just, you know, got to know. It's seeing something within its context to understand it. Logical, mathematical? Right?
Numbers.
Structural, numbers, yep. Just ordinal, cardinal, puzzles, yep. Excellent. Naturalist. Nature. A lot of people, oh, this, you know what, I'm going to do a DI thing. We're going to do a whole gardener's thing. Let's all go outside. And see who learns the best. That's not really kind of what they mean. Anything associated with life. Processes of life. Categorizations of life. Okay? Would be involved with the naturalistic learner. Musical. Bodily kinesthetic. Or jumping beans. Intrapersonal, which is leave me alone, shut up. I just let me do it on my own. How many of you guys, when you go to grad school, how many of you guys had the professor that made you do things with doing small groups? I hated that. Because I wanted to get it done. So you wanted to be in my group, because if we want to memorize interpersonal, what is it? What's their task? Thank you. Okay, good. I got it. You guys, don't worry about it. And I just do the whole thing and then back out. Like, whoa, score! So you want an interpersonal person on your team because they just want to get it done and leave you alone. Interpersonal, they interact much better in groups, small groups or larger groups. You got to be careful with those because if you have too many interpersonals on a team, what happens? It's a party, yeah. Woohoo! All right, good. The tunes get on, you're dancing. And existential, the new one, Gardner's new one. We'll talk a little bit about that today. Being in the moment. Now there's kind of two definitions for the existential one, but it's being in the moment, be fully alive, and I'm going to show you a video here from Ken Robinson in a minute. An existential, have you guys ever sat through something and you went, I knew that. I didn't have a label for it, I didn't have a thing, I just intuitively knew portions of that. That's part of that existential learning, okay? Now, let me give you some rules of the DI. The first segment we cover is just a little bit of kind of groundwork of when I say DI, what is it that I mean, right, as opposed to O'Malley or Martano. Okay, can we agree that all students are different? Yes? Anyone agree with that? Would you agree that all students are different during times of day? Days of the week? Good, good. Times of the year? Okay, yeah, exactly, right? Everyone kind of knows. Would you also agree that all teachers are different? Right. So the biggest thing you got to make sure you take over, I'm a bulldog teacher. When you come into my classroom, I will snatch you up on my teeth, I will shake you down, I will throw you on the ground, I'll step back, I'll let you breathe for a second, I go, up on the back, let's go. And that's just my mode of teaching. That doesn't work for everyone. Do not make the mistake of going, I can do it like that. There's no such thing as the Cones method of teaching. That's how I teach. You teach how you teach. Very critical that you understand that. Because at the end of this day, I'll be soaked in sweat. Not I'll be worn out, but I will take a little nap. Okay, you don't want to do this daily. You don't want to do, hit this like you do. You want to bring your energy. You want to bring your passion. But you got to be you. I can't stress that enough about DI. You see a lot of examples of people try to do the thing and try to mold themselves and explore. That's great. But try to teach it the way that you need to teach it, okay? Can we agree that all curriculum is used by the same people in the same way? Right? Now, I have pillars. Now, I even have a page number for you. On page 12, for those of you, when it says the page thing, I am not like this, and I don't care, okay? But if you're like this, if you're real, I gotta find a page, there's the page number. This is the only time we'll mention page numbers. If you see it up there, great. If you don't, if you raise your hand and say, what page number, I'll go 12. So, all right? You guys got it? Good. So these guys are into the page thing. Cool. It's threw it up there for you. You got to know your craft. You cannot do differentiation without knowing your subject material. For example, you're going from 3rd grade to 5th grade. Not a good time to start plugging in a whole bunch of DI, unless you taught 5th grade before. Does that make sense? That makes sense. Or you're starting up, you go from, you're taking world history, now you're taking American history. And you take that somewhere up to bone up on all the material. Not a good time to start plugging in extra, because you're just piling up more work for you. You got to be comfortable. The more comfortable with your material, the more mastery you have in your material, the better you will be at doing differentiated than instructor, okay? Because you'll have the necessary cognitive tools to deal with it. You got to know your students. This is a direct connection with unconditional positive regard. A direct connection. You've got to know your kids. You don't know your kids, you will not be successful in doing differentiation. It'll be just like shotgunning. You'll just be guessing. Does that make sense? So you got to get to know your kids. Responsible risk taker, which I am not. I'm an irresponsible risk taker. And it's worked out for the most part. I'll show you some examples that it didn't. Okay, some of you are probably wondering, what's the deal with the penguins? Represents my biggest mistake as an administrator. They almost cost me my life. You'll know that story after lunch. Let's call it an anchor in a hook. Okay. Sharing success. Being from a military background, in fact, I'm writing a book. It's called, Man versus Child, and I have a whole segment called Teachers Don't Get Medals and Teachers Don't Work Teams. Do not be offended when I say this, but I mean it in all earnestness. You guys are on your own. I could give you a description and say, what career field do you think that you're behind enemy lines, expected to do the impossible with the minimum amount of time, with no casualties, and have your budget cut at the same time? I could be talking about a SEAL, or I could be talking about a kindergarten teacher. Same lead job. Here's the problem. The SEAL can fall for that. And they have explosives. You guys think that's why? You don't. That's the horrible thing about teaching. You would know what a team was. That some of you may be blessed and working on a team. That's good. I've seen very few effective teams in terms of schools. Really effective teams. Where they look at leadership capacity, teaching capacity, curricular capacity, and building it from the inside. Part of it is the system. You're designed to walk in and go, hi, it's the me hour. And they go back out. And you open the door. And for 8 or how many preps you got, classes, and that's it. It's rare if we go, hi, how are you? And then go. There's no dialogue. Or there's dialogue that you would see in the lounge. Which I've never seen, very, very few seen, it's not very edifying. It's normally what's a nice way of putting it? Bitch says it. Oh, I'm sorry, it is, but not a nice way. But it really is, it's griping and garbage. Just going to the pool. I have ADD, by the way, so, okay. Oh, no, it's cool. I was on Ritalin for a while, and you get the parent who comes in, and they walk in, and they go, hi, how are you? It's Tommy, he's got ADD. So I go, me too! And they look and they go, oh, I go, hey, yep, I got one Ritalin. Hey, you know what? I got 2 masters, 4.0, University of Dayton. What's your excuse? And then it just stops on it. That's what I call a parent kind of try to hand you the hand grenade. They go, dink! And you just put that pin right back in. They go, that's yours. You keep that. That's your grenade, not mine. But you know what that means? You got the energy to get the job done. So I just came completely off track. If you want to edit that one. But it was a sharing success, yes. There's got to be moments, I'll talk at the end, and there's going to be more when the text comes out about methods of us communicating to one another to share successes. I travel a lot.